But then life hit. And when life hits, it tends to hit hard. Starting over anything can feel like one of the most frustrating and scary things you can do. And that's especially true as an adult when you feel like you should have everything together. But what if I told you it didn't have to be that scary? What if changing how you think about starting over can actually make it easier? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Whether it's your personal life, your job, your relationship, or even a YouTube channel, we're going to talk about why starting over is so intimidating and how you can change your mindset so that it's not as terrifying as it seems to be. So let's get into it. Having to restart something you put so much time and energy into can almost seem counterproductive. Starting over is an overwhelming and scary thought, knowing that you put so much time and energy into something only to have to restart and erase the entire thing, all of the progress that you made prior. And this is especially true as an adult. I think we've all heard this one before. Being an adult means you're supposed to be established, stable, and settled into something. At least that's the idea. You're supposed to have your career figured out, your relationship figured out, maybe even a 5 to 10 year plan mapped out. But I want to tell you something. Getting things right the first time is not the norm. Having to start from scratch at some point in your life is a lot more common than you think it is. Recent surveys show that about 64% of people right now feel stuck in progressing towards goals that matter to them. And additionally, 60% of workers stay in jobs longer than they want to, even though most believe switching careers would make them happier. In psychology, this is called metathesiophobia, or the fear of change. And that fear tends to keep a lot of people in the same place they're in. And that tells you it's not just a you problem, it's a widespread experience. One that I don't think we talk about enough in society. I feel like there's an invisible timeline that we've all absorbed at some point in our lives. By 21, you're supposed to have graduated college. By your mid-20s, you're supposed to have a stable job, start building momentum towards your future. And by 30, you're supposed to be solid. Not scrambling, not questioning anything, simply solid. But if the past decade has taught us anything important, it's that nothing is scripted, nothing is solid, and nothing ever goes to plan. And for many people, when their life doesn't match up to the script that they developed for it, it feels like they missed something. Almost like there's a screw missing in the bookshelf that you made from IKEA. Everything's together, but something's not right. We all deal with life changes at some point. I know I've had my fair share. Something shifts, like a career change, or a financial reset, or a relationship ending, or simply the quiet realization that you don't want to be on the same path you're on right now. It feels heavy, I'm not gonna lie. And it feels heavy not because you can't handle it, but because you thought you wouldn't have to do this at this point. The thought pops in of you had everything together. You followed the plan. But why aren't things working the way that they're supposed to be working? And I think that's the part that people don't like to admit sometimes. There's a subtle panic that creeps in. You look around and it seems like everyone else is moving in a straight line. Promotions, houses, milestones, anniversaries, you name it. But meanwhile, you're standing in the middle of your own reset, thinking, how in the world did I fall behind? Logically, we all know there's no universal blueprint or universal plan for anyone's life, but emotionally, it still feels like there is. And this is why social media can be so damaging at times. We tend to compare ourselves to the proverbial Joneses without taking a look at just how far we've gone in our own life and in our own journeys. Starting over isn't scary because we're incapable of starting again. Starting over is only scary because it forces us to rewrite the story that we've been telling ourselves for so long. Maybe you saw yourself as the stable one, or the successful one, or the one who just figured everything out. And now you're in unfamiliar territory, questioning things that you thought were already settled. And I'll give you a prime example. I thought I had my life together at 22. I moved out of my parents' house thinking I had everything figured out. But then life hit. And when life hits, it tends to hit hard. I ended up back at my parents' house only a few years later, and it wasn't because I failed, even though it felt like that at the time, but because I realized the path I was on wasn't the path that I wanted to continue on. I sold my car, I left my job, moved back in with my parents, but I ended up going back to school. And that was one of the best decisions I think I could ever make. I knew I wanted a new path that I wanted to set out on, and so I did it. And in order to do that, I had to essentially destroy everything that I had built up to that point and restart to build something new. A better and improved version of myself was the goal, and everything I thought I knew up to that point turned out to be lessons in disguise. And I think that realization messes with you more than the actual circumstances. No one likes learning life lessons. But maybe this is the part of adulthood that they didn't really prepare us for. Not the big failures, not the dramatic collapses, just the quiet realization that the opportunity for growth never really goes away. Now, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of people in the world who have been able to figure things out a lot sooner than a lot of other people. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. I honestly want to applaud the people who have been able to figure things out for themselves, because please send some information my way. But I realize that we are individuals with our own lives, our own perspectives, and our own dreams. In my personal mental health journey, I've had to reset my thinking many times. Being an adult isn't simply having it all together. Sometimes it's admitting something just isn't working anymore. One thing I really enjoy is learning about science topics. And honestly, theoretical physics has been one of my favorite topics to dive into. Now, mind you, I have a degree in history. I know nothing about theoretical physics. I'm not saying I'm an expert in theoretical physics, because I am far from that. But some of the concepts that I learned are interesting to learn about. And one of the things I've delved into is the theory of multiple universes. The idea that an entirely different reality can exist simply by the choices that you make. And conversely, there's a version of you that's doing a lot worse, simply because that version of you didn't make the same decisions that you did. Essentially, you can continue on the path that you are now, or you can change that decision and join a completely different timeline about yourself that's just slightly better than what you have right now. What makes life so amazing is we have the ability to choose our own path. Life isn't a solid, it's a fluid. And all of us have the ability to choose our own destiny. At any point in our lives, we can pivot to a completely different timeline. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to do so. Next time when you're afraid you need to start over, but you're a little hesitant to do so, just remember that there's a brand new timeline just waiting out there for you. One that you get to write. To wrap up, there's absolutely nothing wrong with beginning again. The amount of times I've had to restart this video is insane. But at the end of the day, the video gets done. Starting over isn't evidence that you're behind or you're dumb or incompetent. It's proof that you're paying attention and that you're willing to become uncomfortable in order to improve yourself. And I'm doing a bit of a pivot on this channel as well. I want to start having more honest conversations about the topics that we don't talk about as much in society as we probably should. Career pressures, identity shifts, modern adulthood, financial uncertainty, and that quiet feeling that you have that something isn't quite right, but you don't know how to quite verbalize it. That's what we're going to be talking about from here on out. And this isn't going to come from a place of panic or pretending like I know everything, because I don't. These are just going to be thoughtful conversations about how we deal with life in real time. So if that sounds like something you want to explore with me, stick around, because there'll be plenty more videos just like this one. And with that, I'll see you all next week.